Yes, boys. So today I want to talk about how much money I actually made in my first proper month in high ticket sales. And I don't see many people talking about this topic because not many people want to share how much money they make, which is understandable. But I want to give as realistic expectations as I possibly can to the people who are genuinely thinking about getting into high ticket sales. Now, I'm going to caveat this by saying, firstly, everyone's journey is going to be very different depending on how much you're willing to come in and put in the work and how quickly you're actually willing to take action on it. Because I joined a program in high ticket sales for high ticket sales in like November 2024. And it took me way too long to get on my first offer, even start applying to roles. If I could go back, I would have done things a lot differently. I would have moved a lot faster. But I didn't have that urgency back then. I didn't have urgency and I had a lot of overthinking. And it wasn't until I put my back against the wall and just sent it and left my job, like burnt the boats, that's when I actually started to make good money. So to rewind back to 2024, I joined a sales program. It takes me a good 6 months from that point, 6 months, more like 4 or 5 months to actually land my first role. And if I'm talking about this role, I only made like a few hundred from this first role in like a month. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, it was a role which was a brand new offer with very light lead flow. So I was doing this alongside my 9-to-5 job. So I was still working full time and I would take calls in the evening, closing calls. Now, because it was such a brand new offer, there was barely any calls, barely any proof of concept, but it allowed me to get the reps in. And me getting the reps in really helped understanding sales, understanding how to speak to people, how to overcome objections, how to do a good discovery. And I actually closed like my first few deals. I was like, yo, this is actually kind of cool. I can sell high ticket. But this wasn't really my first full-time offer. After that, I basically decided I can't tiptoe in this. If I actually want to get results, if I actually want to put myself in a position where I'm going to show up and put my everything into this, I need to quit what I'm doing. Like, I need to quit my job. It's something I wanted to do anyways, but I was waiting for that safety net of actually making enough money with high ticket sales on the side to then leave my job. But that was the biggest mistake. That's why anything I ever tried in the past never actually worked, right? So it's now April time, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I did my istikhara and I said, you know what, I'm leaving my job. Because me leaving my job, that is going to be a very high ROI activity because I'm going to be stressed. I know I'm going to be stressed. And when I'm going to be stressed and I'm desperate and I'm urgent and I need to make something work, I'll figure it out, right? I remember having the mindset of like our parents and their parents' generation. Just think about the level of risk that they had to take to come to countries that were foreign to them. They didn't know the language, they didn't know how they were going to make it work, they didn't know where they were going to stay. But some of them had to take huge risks to give their future generations a better life. And I remember thinking about all these things. I'm pretty sure all of this was going on in my mind, thinking, what's the worst that's going to happen? I can find another job. Worst comes to worst, I'll find another job. And it's unreasonable to fail if you put in inputs like nobody else will, right? So I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but I'm just explaining the thought process that was going on in my mind while I'm actually making the decision to leave my job. Because I've only made a few £100s at this point from high ticket sales, but I'm seeing these other guys crushing it. I'm seeing these other guys who are making anywhere between 10, 20, 30k a month. And I'm like, okay, I can at least replace my income. I can at least, just leave my day job and keep myself afloat. And so the only way I was going to do that was if I left my job, gave high ticket sales the time that it needed, because this is one thing which people don't talk about. High ticket sales is not something that will give you like complete and utter time freedom. Okay, yes, you get to work when you want, kind of, but if you're looking for something which is very passive with your time, there are many other things which you could do which are probably going to be better for you, not high ticket sales. Now, the reason I chose high ticket sales was because it's something which is such an important skill to have. I think there's some crazy stat like 60 to 70% of billionaires in the world all started with sales. If you learn sales, like you're good. Like you are good. You can take that skill to any business that you start in the future. It's such an important skill to have, and so that's why I chose it. I didn't care too much about working less hours. My whole priority was I wanted to work somewhere where my hard work determined my income. I didn't want to be capped. I also didn't want to work with non-Muslims. I also didn't want to work in an office in the UK, and I wanted to make hijrah to a Muslim country as well, which, stay tuned, we've got some updates inshallah, wink wink. So yeah, at this point I'm like, what is the worst that's going to happen? If I leave my job and I don't do well with high ticket sales, I'll go and get a less paying job than I'm currently making right now. That's realistically my worst case scenario. I've got a degree, I've got a few years experience, I'll find something. Best case scenario, I change my life, I'm able to live the life that I want to live. And so that's what I did. I put in my notice, and at that point I had no role lined up, no sales role lined up. So yeah, I went to town on applying for as many roles as I possibly could, like as many as I possibly could. And I'll be honest, because I don't want to make myself sound better than I actually am, I don't actually think I did that much applying. Like in my mind I had the mission to do that, but subhanallah, this role came about very quick, in comparison to how long others have to wait. And one of the reasons why it came about so quickly was because of the network that I had. And this is huge. Like, this is huge. In sales, everything is network. Everything is referral. If you know somebody on a good offer, you are way more likely to be successful than someone who is not connected, which is why high ticket sales programs are, I don't want to say they are always a good idea, but I would say if I was starting again from zero, I would 100% join a high ticket sales program. And I joined one where the students of that program speak well about it. That's what I would say. And so anyways, through networks, I landed a role, and this is what you've all been waiting for, right? Like, how much did I actually make in the first month? So to paint the picture, I've just left my job. I have nothing else to do. This is July last year. I've got nothing else to do. And I'm talking, I would work 12-hour days straight. I would do nothing but sit at my desk and just work. I was obsessed. I needed to make it work. I had no cushion, I had no safety net, I had no money coming in. And that first month, after putting in 12-hour days, after having nothing to fall back on, I made around £2,800, which is probably like 4k US dollars for those of you that operate in dollars. And the crazy thing about this was, like, that's not a crazy amount of money, right? That's not life-changing money, but it was more than what I was making in my job. And it just broke so many limiting beliefs. I was like, what? I've just been in this space for like the last 6 months, and I'm already making this kind of money. And with sales, for those of you that don't know, your first month is not your highest earning month. In fact, it's your lowest earning month, because you haven't built any pipeline, you don't have payment plans coming in, so it's going to be your lowest ever month. And when I made that my first month, it wasn't life-changing money, but the proof of concept was there. I was like, okay, if I show up like this next month, then I can make more money, and the next month I can make more. And that first month was so important for me to put in everything. But I want to paint the picture very realistic, right? Like, working 12-hour days, 6-7 days a week, most people would argue it's not worth it for £2,800 a month. And I would agree. Like that's not much money. That's like an average UK wage. But there are going to be times where you're going to have to put in a lot of work for not a lot. You're going to have to put in a lot of inputs for not a lot of output. That's the beginning of anything and everything. If you want to be valuable to something, you've got to give value first, and then you'll get it back. And sales is like that, especially if you're in a part of a sales team, right? You want to be a guy who comes in, puts in a lot of work, gives a lot of value, and then makes asks later, right? That's a side point. Regardless, with sales, like I said, there's a few things that are going to dictate how much money you make. Like, real talk. The offer that you're on, huge. If you're on a bad offer, it doesn't matter how much effort you put in, you will not make good money. And if you're on an amazing offer, you honestly do not have to be a good closer, you don't have to be a good setter, you don't have to be a good salesperson. You can print. The other thing is, after the offer, it is going to be about how much time you put in and the skill set that you have. And I truly believe a person who shows up very consistently, doesn't have the best skills, but shows up more consistently, is always going to outperform someone who has amazing skill, but doesn't show up consistently. Sales, I say it time and time again, it's all a sport. It is a sport. It's nothing but a sport. You have to see it that way. You have to show up like an athlete. It's something I'm trying to get better at, right? The biggest thing that I think I lack in sales right now is consistency. It's why I'm not making the money that I want to be making. And I'm going off on a tangent again, but that was my first month in high ticket sales. I made £2,800 in my first month. So some of you are going to say that's not a lot of money. Some of you are going to be like, yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, you can live off that. For me, like if I'm talking real talk, that was really good for me at the time, because I can do all of the things that I wanted to. I wanted to move to a Muslim country. I could probably do that. I could probably make hijrah, right? I can work remotely. I can pray when I want. I work with Muslims. So, alhamdulillah, like that was everything to me. But obviously, you want to make more and more money. And alhamdulillah, I did make more money going on into the future months. But there's a lot of people that speak about high ticket sales and how it's this, you know, perfect world of sunshine and rainbows. It's not perfect, and it's not for everybody. And you're not just going to come in and make 10k a month like you're told. Realistically, it's going to take you anywhere between 6 months to a year to be making 10k a month. Realistically. For some, it's going to take more than that. But I'm generally, like, I was the guy who didn't need 10k a month. I just needed to replace my income. I needed to make a bit more than my income. And I needed to be able to work from anywhere in the world, where I have the freedom to be able to pray on time, the freedom to be able to not work with non-Muslims, the freedom to not have to free mix at work, the freedom to not have to, you know, go to places where I don't want to go, right? Because I used to travel a lot as well for my job at the time. And all of this for making a very average UK salary. It was just depressing me. And I'm seeing these guys who are way younger than me, or way less skilled, or way whatever it may be, just guys like me who are making all this money. And I realize it's all about vehicle. It's all about the vehicle that you're in. If you are employed, you are in a vehicle which is not going to have the level of growth like a business or something like sales will have, right? And I say something like sales ultimately is a business. Like, I operate under a limited company. I'm a contractor. I don't work for anybody. I am part of a sales team, but in terms of officially, I'm actually my own limited company. I offer sales consulting services, right? It makes it all sound all fancy, but it basically just means that you're a sales rep, right? So I said that to say, pick your vehicle very, very carefully. if you are not making the money that you want to be making, there's two things that are probably holding you back. Number one is the vehicle that you're in, and number two, the skill set that you have. The skills that you have are either high income skills or low income skills. And the biggest limiting belief factor that shattered everything for me was I realized you don't have to be smart to have high income skills. That's it. I was never super smart at school or anything like that. It's probably average. I could probably learn things if I really wanted to try hard. I don't think I ever really tried hard. I never wanted to. There were certain times where I did, when I felt a bit of pressure. I can memorize things fairly well, but I wasn't intelligent. I wouldn't say I was some above average intelligence person. And the most comforting thing was seeing these guys who are doing 500k a month, $1 million a month, who they're not intelligent people. They just act, and they've chose the vehicle of making money as a vehicle which is highly lucrative, high scale. Yes, it's going to come with some downsides, right? Like it's going to be volatile. With a 9 to 5, you get that cushy salary, right? And for some people, that suits their life more. Which is why I say entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Sales is not for everybody. It's pick the life that you want to live. If you want to live a life where you're going to achieve more than what most people will, if you truly want to be able to make hijrah and leave the Muslim land, leave the West lands and go towards Muslim lands and take care of your family and do all of these things, a 9 to 5 in the West, you've just capped yourself. You're finished. You're finished. You are finished. Like, if that's not the life that you want to live, and I would say no Muslim should want that life, why on earth would you, as a fully grown, capable Muslim man, not try to be the best version of yourself for your family? I would ask you that question. Especially knowing now that you can make money online. What is holding you back? If it's knowledge, if it's information, that's fine. Just understand that you now need to go and get that knowledge and information. If it's fear, that's okay as well. Everybody has fear. I had a load of fear. I'll be real, like, it wasn't some cool, calm, collected decision. I was scared. What happens if I don't make money? What happens if I have to go back to another job that pays less? But that's the cost of entrepreneurship and business and success. You have to be willing to make trades most people will never make. If you want to achieve something that most people never achieve, you have to be willing to fail. And failure is okay. There's literally nothing wrong with failure. I've had months, right? I love talking about this topic because I think people need to hear this. I've had months where I've made less than my job. That's okay. I'm on a bigger journey here. I'm in a vehicle which allows me to print so much money. It comes with time. You have to be willing to sit through the fluctuations, just like an athlete has to sit through some losses. Even the best of the best, they will lose. How do you take that? And sales and entrepreneurship, it's all a test of character. It really is. Because it will test you big time. And you grow a lot as a person when you're not performing like you want to, when you're not making the money that you want to. It's all about how you take it, how you come back. And that's a whole different topic that I could speak about forever. But yeah, this was just a bit of story time with me explaining how much I was actually able to make in my first proper month in high ticket sales. To paint a more realistic picture. You'll see a lot of these guys saying I made 10k a month in my first month. There's probably guys out there that do that, but most of the time it's not going to be like that. I know guys that make a lot less in their first month. And if I'm talking about my first technical month in high ticket sales, which was part-time, that was only a couple hundred. So yeah, it's going to vary a lot. I would say don't expect, insane things. Your first month is more about you learning, understanding how everything works, and building that skill set. Show up, put in the work, put in the volume, differentiate yourself between everybody else and how much work they put in. You're going to do well in sales. You're going to do well in sales, inshallah. So if you like what you've seen, then follow along, like, comment, subscribe, comment on what you actually want to see. It helps me understand how I can give more value. So drop a comment below. And if there's any specific topic, I'm more than happy to speak about it. I want to be able to make this a place where people can learn as much as they possibly can to decide if sales is something they want to do. From my perspective, I'm a big advocate. I'm biased because it's the thing that I chose, but alhamdulillah, it completely changed my life. And if I can be a resource for people to be able to help make big change in their life, that's what I'm here for, inshallah. So yeah, take care, speak soon, and yeah, follow along. Assalamu alaikum.